welcome to the April Park and Rec meeting, and also to those who are in the audience, a couple of whom are going to be making a presentation shortly to the Park and Rec Commission, and one of whom is already at the podium. But before we do that, we want to take a look at the agenda, and there's a slight change, moving item number 8 in new business on the Pollinator Park to up right after the approval of the agenda, and then we'll proceed to the minutes after that. So with that in mind, is there a motion to approve or amend the agenda?
So move.
I'll second.
Okay, has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as it is. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the motion carried. Director Schmitz, could you take us into that first item on our business then of the Pollinator Park?
Yes, Vice Chair Sledadal and members of the commission, we have before us today a couple of key leaders in our Pollinator Park, Deb and Nancy. And so what we've got here is a request to allow our Pollinator Park to be nominated as a designated monarch way station through monarchwatch.org and the University of Kansas. And with that introduction, I'd call on Deb Steinberg to illuminate us some more on this designation.
Thank you. How many of you have had the pleasure of visiting the Pollinator Park? Very good. Yeah, we work hard at trying to keep it a nice park that's appealing to the eye as you drive by. And in an effort to help our monarch butterfly, and really all pollinators, I would like our city Pollinator Park located at 2525 North Broadway Street to join the Monarch Way Station program. This is a wonderful program where signs already are posted all the way from Mexico, all the way north up into Canada, and it's to help the conservation of the monarch butterfly. With the increase of development and widespread use of herbicides in Mexico and throughout all the breeding areas in the United States and Canada, monarch way stations are a safe place that will provide milkweed and nectar flowers to help the monarch throughout the spring and summer, where they have their breeding grounds. And also, fall nectar is needed to fuel the monarch for their long journey down south in Mexico. The monarch is the only butterfly that cannot survive winter. All other butterflies either will be in their cocoon or chrysalis or larvae state, but the monarch butterfly cannot survive without migrating up to 3,000 miles. So the New Ulm Pollinator Park already meets all the guidelines to be a monarch way station, so we're all set to go. All we need is the cost of $16 for the application, and then $24.95 for a weatherproof sign, which I think would be a great asset for the city of New Ulm. So if you could please consider this request to support monarch conservation. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And are there any questions from any members of the committee? Well, I'd just like to say I think the Pollinator Park is just a real gem, and I enjoy when I'm biking, going by there and just stopping and walking through, reading the signs, and
It's amazing how many people will stop by and visit us while we're working there and ask questions, and what is this plant, and what are those flags out there for? You know, they have so many questions, so it really is a great asset to New Ulm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything further by anybody? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion's carried, and thank you very much for your work.
Thank you.
We will then go back to our agenda, and the next item would be the approval of the of the minutes, to approve or amend them. And is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. The next item would be the activity report, the March activity report. And are there any questions of Director Schmitz or anybody else in the administration? I just had one, just of interest, and that is I note that park personnel have assisted with emergency issues, no doubt related to the flooding, and I was just kind of wondering what kind of things do our Park and Rec people help with in emergencies?
Vice Chair Sledadal and members, some of the tasks that Park and Rec has been assisting the community with include monitoring and closing the park areas that border our rivers. The Cottonwood River includes Adams Park, and then, of course, the Minnesota River includes Riverside Park and Minnicon Park. So closely monitoring that and assisting in park closures and street closures. We also assisted with the storm sewer, opening up the storm sewer when spring came suddenly and we still had snow and ice covering the intakes, the storm sewer intakes in some of the street areas. And then we're on standby for certainly other areas that the Public Works Department or other departments might need assistance with.
In your mention of Adams Park, I'm assuming that there'll be a lot of work to restore Adams Park to its original status with all the silt and everything in there?
Well, Adams Park is one of our urban wilderness areas in which we kind of let Mother Nature take care of the park. There's a couple of modest improvements in there that we've made over the years, including the parking lot and the steps down the Carrion water access site to the steps. So we're still in the process of reviewing that and analyzing what damage has occurred to, those amenities. And then we'll be making a decision at some point in the future about possibly reorganizing the parking arrangement out there. It seems that every time the river comes up high, we lose the gravel into the river. And so there's going to be a discussion about discontinuing that, replacing gravel in the parking lot there. We may provide parking elsewhere in the area. But other than that, we'll get in there once winter is over, hopefully at the end of this week or next week with an upcoming blizzard forecast this week. We'll take a look at the benches, a couple of park benches that have been placed in there in the past and make a determination of what repairs need to take place. And we document all this as part of the potential FEMA claims with flooding related to the natural disaster.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions of Director Schmitz? Then we'll have the report filed. With that in mind, could we have the City Council recap, Director Schmitz?
Certainly, Vice Chair Sledadal and members. The March 19th City Council meeting saw them award the German Park Amphitheater design to Bolton and Mink Incorporated. They also authorized a grant application to the Schmidt Foundation for the amphitheater fundraising, and they accepted the donations you recommended they accept. March 19th work session held shortly after the City Council meeting saw them discuss the various Renew projects, the Target building, and German Park. April 2nd City Council meeting saw Herbie Hedgehog and Dr. Ann Vogel present recognition to Dennis Warda, Herb Schopper, and myself for work on the German Park Amphitheater. They approved discontinuing planning for the Renew Dome. They approved not allocating Renew funds for a child daycare center. They authorized bidding out the Johnson Renew project, of which bid opening is going to take place later on this month. They approved hiring RJM Construction as the construction manager for the projects at the Recreation Center and set a construction budget of $9.5 million for those improvements at the Recreation Center. And finally, they approved not locating any of the Renew projects at the former Target department store. Then they authorized the Minnesota grant application to the Minnesota Timberwolves grant program for improvements at the basketball court at Hans Yost Park. And finally, they selected a new city manager for the city. Chris Dalton was named as city manager at that city council meeting. So that's it for city council activities over the past month related to Park and Rec.
Are there any questions for Director Schmitz?
Tom, the $9.5 million, is there anything left besides Johnson and Herman, as far as money goes?
Vice Chair Sledadol, Commissioner Skillings, and others, you know, the legislative authorization is $14.8 million. And we've, the city council has earmarked approximately $1 million for the Johnson Park. Some preliminary cost estimates are $800,000 for Herman Heights. That may creep up to possibly $1 million at Herman Heights. And then the other four projects, the aquatics improvements, the indoor playground, the gymnastics center, and the wellness center are all planned to be located at the recreation center. And that's where they, at this point, have chosen about a $9.5 million construction budget. Now, that doesn't include the soft costs, which are design and construction management, which could be in the range of, you know, $2 million above and beyond the construction costs. So it's still early in the game, so to speak, early in the process, and there's an enormous amount of design that's going to be taking place yet. I'm just kind of, I'll dovetail right into the Renew update here. You know, the Johnson Park projects are out for bid right now, and the bid opening is the 24th of April. So at the first council meeting in May, we would anticipate asking the city council to award a general contractor for the Johnson projects and keep those on schedule for construction to begin in early June and complete by the end of the year. The design work at the Recreation Center, I would anticipate taking many months, possibly the rest of 2019, with construction groundbreaking possibly taking place in spring of next year, 2020. There's a possibility we can get foundations in the ground at the Recreation Center late this year because of the way the construction management model allows that to take place as opposed to a general contractor model. So let's see, and then Herman, it's going to take, I don't think the Herman Heights Renew project would be ready for construction until 2020. I think that'll take most of this year for design. There is an outside possibility that work begins in the autumn of this year. So the actual financial picture continues to be a little bit, you know, not in flux, but you know, we have to wait to see what bid opening is like at Johnson and these other bid openings. So there's going to be plenty of decisions for the Renew Oversight Committee and the City Council to make over the next year at least when it comes to design and bid opening and awarding projects.
Okay, any other questions or thoughts for Director Schmitz? Okay, thank you for that report and also for the segue right into the Renew. We've handled the Pollinator Park Waste Station, and so the next item is the Kiesling House, and I think you mentioned, Director Schmitz, that we have a presentation. on that?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Sledadol and members. I will open the topic here in that I'm recommending that you forward this on to the City Council to accept Kathleen Backer's written notice of lease termination at Kiesling House and direct the city attorney to draft and authorize the city manager to sign a new lease agreement with the Brown County Historical Society to operate historical programming in Kiesling House and Park at no cost. So we have with us today Kara Knopf as a representative of the Brown County Historical Society.
So good afternoon, Commissioners. Like Tom said, I am Kara Knopf. I'm the Vice President of the Board of Trustees of the Brown County Historical Society. Kathleen Backer was not able to attend today, so I will be reading her programming opportunity overview for you. In your agendas, you do have some bullet points that I actually don't have. I have on my trusty phone, if you'd like to discuss them. But I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into Kathleen's presentation. So first, what is the Kiesling House? It was constructed in 1861 and survived the U.S.-Dakota War of 1862, and it's the only wood-framed house from that era remaining in Brown County. The programming interprets early pioneer settlement, customs, and traditions from that era, and immigrants and events like the U.S.-Dakota War of 1862 that shaped the early development of Brown County. The programs examine the development of community and influence of social and political issues on residents that lived in this area of Minnesota. For past operation, for the past 3 years, Kathleen has operated the Kiesling House seasonal programming as an individual, not as part of the Brown County Historical Society, but by herself. She contracted with the City of New Ulm as an individual to operate the historic site. She does not plan on continuing operating the site, but recommends that the Brown County Historical Society consider taking over the site. She has given the lease termination to the city. The City of New Ulm owns the house and is willing to consider entering into a contract with the BCHS to operate the site. The city terms would be on a no-cost basis lease for BCHS. The city would be responsible for utilities, maintenance of the site and structure, snow removal, and lawn mowing. Operation of the site. Other historical societies do operate multiple sites. For example, Nicollet County owns and operates the Cox House and the Treaty site, and the expenses for operating those two sites come out of their budget. In addition, Nicollet County operates Fort Ridgely, the Harkin Store, and Traverse des Sioux on behalf of the Minnesota Historical Society. The Minnesota Historical Society provides some funding to NCHS to operate these three sites, but it doesn't cover all the operating expenses. And then the Blue Earth County Historical Society operates the Hubbard House and their History Center. The house property is owned by the City of Mankato, and then BECHS employs up to 2 seasonal staff during the summer, and they're responsible for tours, operating the site gift shop, and cleaning. All house repairs and maintenance is done by the city, and Mankato does not provide any money for the Blue Earth County Historical Society. So the models that Kathleen is suggesting for operating the Kiesling House would call for paid interpreters, augmented with a corps of volunteers, and then developing Kiesling House operation into a volunteer-operated program entirely is a possibility to explore in the future. The vision for the future is to model the operation of the Kiesling House similar to the Popcorn Wagon program. The operation of the Popcorn Wagon is done solely by a corps of local volunteers. There are about 100 of them, with a dedicated volunteer coordinator who is Yvonne Weber. The Popcorn Wagon operates a total of 10 days. It's a special license for them to operate because it's a historical, intact, I don't want to say artifact, where the Kiesling House would operate on 12 weekends, which would require more volunteers to operate. Available resources, currently there is $13,100 in the Kiesling House Fund available for BCHS. Those funds can be used to hire coordinating and programming staff and cover the cost of demonstrators. The fund is projected to cover those costs the first 2 years and possibly 3 years. So there is funding already in place to make this work. And support from organizations and individuals. Kathleen has letters of support from when she took over the lease on the Kiesling House, and she feels strongly that that will continue if the BCHS contributes. She has support letters from the Junior Pioneers, the New Ulm Public Library, Vicki Pizer, Dan Hoisington, and George Glatzbach. I do have copies of those if you'd like to see them. And programming, the current programming in the Kiesling House, and if you've never been there, I encourage you to go. It's fascinating what she has done there. To think that 9 people, including 7 children, lived in that little tiny building is pretty amazing. The established programming currently includes interpretive panels, including graphic images and text, 3-dimensional artifacts, which support the story, guided tours, which most visitors choose to have the tour. it's a much more in-depth experience if you learn what the family was like and what they did in this house. There is a 4-minute video that provides an overview of the historic site. And then demonstrations on the weekends, including, the New Ulm Battery. They've had butter making, shoemaking, needle crafts, things like that. It provides audiences with insight into the chores, crafts, and activities of the era. And then other activities, when you go to visit, you can actually make butter, if you want to learn how to make butter. To the BCHS, the benefits that would come to the BCHS from this would be an opportunity to broaden our support base. It would increase museum store sales, it would cultivate membership, and we could cross-promote with the museum and other organizations also. And it's a great opportunity for media exposure, and again, I have a whole packet of journal articles and things on the Kiesling House and all the programming. And then additional space, which, as you know, the BCHS is a little cozy. About 2/3 of the collections that we have are not on display, because there simply is not enough room. So the BCHS could program the site and have the benefit of utilizing the building for other purposes, which would be very beneficial, like meetings, presentations, and events. So in short, we would like the Brown County Historical Society to take over the programming and operations of the Kiesling House, and we look for your approval.
Well, thank you for
questions?
that explanation. Are there any questions?
That was
Dr. Schmitz, anything further?
Well, Vice Chair Sledderdahl and members, I think this is an extremely appropriate operation and programming function of the Kiesling House. The Kiesling House is a historic site, and Brown County Historical Society are historical professionals. And Kathleen Backer has done a wonderful job over the past 3 years to get the programming and the displays up and running, and I think the community owes some gratitude towards her, and additionally, I think it's a wonderful offer from the Brown County Historical Society to take over programming at that site.
Okay, are there any further questions then? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve, and the pause had nothing to do with the enthusiasm. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried, and thank you very much, and I haven't been to the Kiesling House for quite a number of years,
Oh, it's wonderful.
but you've certainly gotten me enthused. I got to get down there again.
We were hoping for approval so that we can get going on setting up the paid interpreters and the volunteers and get the programming already ready for this season. So we're looking forward to starting. Thank you very much.
Okay. With that, the next item would be the donations.
Vice Chair Sledderdahl and members, I would like to read into the record the donations offered to the city over the past month. First of all, for the German Park Amphitheater, $1,000 cash, fulfilling his pledge from George Glotzbach, $100 cash from MRCI Bargains Thrift Store. And then for a paver stone in the walkway and improvements to German Park, $100 cash, honoring Roger A. Saxton from Margot Becker. Then we have a whole list of days of play sponsorships here. So first of all, $500 from Minnesota Valley Testing Labs, $500 from GOG Sheet Metal, $250 from Bank Midwest, $250 from Nuvera, $250 from South Point Financial Credit Union, $250 from Laraway Roofing, $100 from S&S Motors, $100 from DNA Trucking, $100 from Fastenal, $100 from Jensen Motors, $100 from Nierengarten and Hippert, attorneys at law, $100 from All Store Incorporated, $100 from the Sertoma Club, $100 from Neubauer Family Chiropractic, and $100 from Pullman Lumber and Design. And finally, the last donation is of a bench, an Artstone bench honoring Bob Wirtz and the Menagerie from Menagerie alumni and supporters to be located in Nels Park. So the grand total in cash is $4,100. And the bench, Artstone bench, is valued at $1,520. I recommend you forward this on to the city council for their acceptance.
So move.
I'll second.
In motion and second, is there any discussion? All in favor of forwarding this to the city council, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. The next item then relates to Herman Fest 2019. Director Schmitz?
Thank you, Vice Chair Slededall and members. This is the annual request from the Herman Monument Society, which is the organization producing Herman Fest. And so what they're asking for is the closure of Center Street between Garden and Highland Avenue from approximately 8:15 to 9 p.m. to accommodate the fireworks discharge on September 7 of this year, 2019. Also, they would like to have the city council authorize the discharge of fireworks, and also for the fire department to remain on standby during the fireworks. And finally, to authorize discharge of cannons in Harmon Park by the New Ulm Battery. So you have before you the overview in the packet. Let's see here, this has been going on since 2013. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7th annual Herman Fest. And I think it's wonderful that the society, the Herman Monument Society, produces this event and that the city council authorizes it and assists significantly in financing the event with the $15,000 in the budget for fireworks. So I would recommend that you forward this on to the city council for their acceptance, authorization, and approval to allow the society to get planning on Herman Fest, which is the Saturday after Labor Day.
Okay, commissioners, it's before you.
So move.
We have motion
Second?
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. And then the splash pad location. Director Schmitz.
Thank you, Vice Chair Slededall and members. You have before you in the packet a number of documents, including the fact that the city council accepted the donated splash pad on November 20th of this past year upon the recommendation by the Park and Rec Commission on November 15th, 2018. And so back then, on November 15th of 2018, the Park and Rec Commission did review this as staff has presented to them about a location. And back then, the Park and Rec Commission did recommend that Harmon Park be the designated location for our first splash pad. I just want to confirm this, and then I'll find out whether or not this location decision needs to go on to City Council ultimately. All of our 40-some park units have been analyzed for a potential location of this splash pad. The finalists, I'll remind you, were also included Riverside Park and Nels Park. Although neither of those two parks have restrooms or off-street parking, and the utility costs associated with installing the splash pad would be higher at those two parks as opposed to Harmon Park. We also seriously considered German Park, but I'm recommending against German Park because of the potential conflicts with the concert series, other performing arts events, and of course weddings that take place in that park. So you have in the packet a number of documents, and up on the screen here you can see where the staff and the consultant have reviewed Harmon Park and recommended this this location between the shelter and the sand volleyball courts. And then you have quite a number of documents from the consultants' packets related to kind of the amenities that would be associated with the splash pad, the different spray units and so on. So I'm happy to try and answer any questions you may have, but I would like to have a final decision on this so that we can continue planning and provide this amenity to the community here in 2019 and honor the donors' wishes.
I apologize for my voice, but I do have one question for Director Schmitz. Are we going to go with the recirculating or non-recirculating?
The non-recirculating, so that we don't have to have chlorine and sanitizers and a filtration system
Okay.
and a certified pool operator to operate the facility. There'll be a push button, and you will get a certain amount of time of mists and spray, and then it will automatically turn itself off until another youth pushes the button or another person pushes the button.
Is that what Red Wing has?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Does it have to be staffed?
No, Splash Pad has no standing water, so there's no potential for drowning, and it will not be staffed. It's basically a playground in which you push a button and spray mists come up out of different components of the splash pad.
I love the location of it being at Harmon because you've got the bathrooms. Kids can change, and it just makes it a lot easier.
Yes, I agree with that. Not only the restrooms, but the shelter building. It's centrally located in the community, whether you live on the hilltop or Goosetown. It's about a similar distance, north end to south end of town, centrally located. It's going to have the lowest potential costs of utilities, and which the city will be a part of hooking up the utilities. And there's a number of other complementary amenities at Harmon Park. You know, Harmon Park I would view as our central active park. And this is a complementary amenity to the play features that already exist in Harmon Park.
Any further questions or comments? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion and
Second.
second. Any discussion? All in favor? Yes, was there discussion?
Director Schmitz, you're going to check? I don't know if this has to go to council or not.
I don't either. I'll be checking
Yeah.
with the city manager, and if it needs to go to the council, or if it's recommended to go to the council, it will go at their next meeting, April 16.
Okay. With that clarification, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. And then we have a Recreation Center boiler.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sledadol and members. On December 18th of 2018, the City Council approved funds for the boiler replacement project into the 2019 budget. This is at the Recreation Center. On January 8th, the City Council awarded the design, bidding, and construction administration of this project to ISG Incorporated. The plan specifications and bid package are now ready, and the project draft schedule is attached to your packet. Let's see here. The Recreation Center has two original boilers, approximately 40 years old, well beyond their manufacturer's estimated lifespan. They're in two separate basement mechanical rooms, a north mechanical room and a south mechanical room. The new boiler system will be a modular, on-demand type system and will be significantly more efficient. $995,000 was budgeted for this project, and the present engineer's estimate for the entire project is $753,186.53. So I would recommend that you forward this on to the City Council at their next meeting, April 16th, for them to allow us to move forward with this planned and budgeted replacement project.
Sounds like that's a pretty favorable projection compared to the original budget.
Yes, it is. Of course, the final numbers will be at bid opening.
Okay. Commissioners, anything further on this? Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. That brings us to staff reports and Director Schmitz.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sledadol and members. I'll just run through a couple of items here. First of all is our new activity season has begun. The new brochure is out and available and on the city website or available in hard copy at numerous locations. Registration went live this morning at 10 a.m. and we have well over $16,000 already brought in with registration online since 10 a.m. this morning. So get your friends and family registered for the programs. They're going like hotcakes. Next item I'd like to talk about a little bit is Herman Heights. The Herman Heights Slope Stabilization Retaining Wall Subcommittee continues to put together a recommendation that will be going to the City Council sometime in the next few months. I'm quite certain the City Council desires to do that project along with the Renew project, which is another reason I don't see that being constructed this year. I see that as a 2020 or later project to coordinate those two together. Because design hasn't, we really haven't gotten too far with design yet on both those two projects. Our crews have been real busy preparing the stickball fields of baseball and softball fields at North Park, Harmon Park, Johnson Park, and Miller Park. And there'll probably be a little bit of a setback here with the weather coming in this week. But games have been taking place already. Staff is also busy turning water on in the parks and opening restrooms. Normally, restrooms don't get opened until May, so we're still, I would say, on schedule for that. The Interpretive Center at Herman Monument will not be opening again this summer. The interpretive displays will remain at the library for public view, but people will be allowed to go inside the fence and walk around the monument and climb up the monument as they were last year. The restoration study continues, and so that's a little bit about Herman. Riverside Park, the drinking fountain will be established in the first half of the year near the playground at Riverside Park, and we've completed the insulation of the attic of the Riverside Park building, which will assist with the utility usage in that facility. North Park, I think we have one of the 3 ball fields remaining for upgrade, and we're planning to get that completed sometime this year. The trap and skeet improvements are on schedule to be completed this year, thanks to a wonderful grant from the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources and numerous private donations. 2 more projects at the Glockenspiel that are budgeted for this year include the replacement of the last of the figurines and then the replacement of the control system, moving from analog to digital control system. Our volunteer buckthorn program continues in full speed with Dr. Ellen Van Cura and numerous helpers. And then the Miller Park shade structure continues to be constructed, and our plan is to have that complete before the summer baseball season. That is it as far as staff reports that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you, Director Schmitz. Are there any questions of the director? That brings us up to the commissioner reports. Are there any commissioner reports to be given? Seeing none, the date of our next meeting will be Monday, May 13. We're at the end of our agenda, and so we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.